Tastily Seamless 365 Hawaii with Real Broker, and I'm with
Hilo Hanui Browning, Nui for short, also from Rio.
And we are going to be bringing you the East Hawaii market update. Nui, actually, because she actually lives there and she's the realtor on that side. I get just to moderate her and ask her a whole bunch of questions. But what we are dealing with on this island is a market that's still shifting. And so, Nui, what are you seeing on your side of the island in terms of a shift?
Well, okay, so I wanted to bring up a point, and this has to do with the whole entire island. When I was pulling stats, I noticed that last year, April 2025, this year, there were 74 less sales than April 2024. And year to date, there's 87 less sales, which means that majority of that drop happened in the last month. And I really think that's indicative of people feeling uncertain about where we're going in the market, because these are closed sales stats, which means that anyone who closed would have gone under contract in February-ish, and that's about when everyone started to
worry about what's happening with the market.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, our feeder market is California, Washington, Oregon, and I actually reached out to some different title companies to see what was going on with the sales on those feeder markets. People were actually canceling their escrows.
I've been hearing that too, but I also saw that California has the 4th largest economy in the world.
Does. Well, I just thought that was a 6th. It's a 4th. But the thing is that if you are not certain about what you're doing with your life, moving to an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean might be a little too much for you, right? And also that was right when the stock market kind of started falling down too. So yeah, so I think that some of the changes in the market might have put people into like this, is now the time to do this, right? Which shows up in the numbers.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting, so I wanted to share with everybody. Also, another interesting fun fact, I don't know if you guys mentioned this, but right now the median sales price for the entire island for single family homes is $605,000. So yeah, I guess we'll talk about Puna first.
Yeah, let's talk about Puna. As Amber would say, that's like where most of the home sales in East Hawaii actually happen, right?
Yes, and most of the inventory, because it's a really, really large district. And so last month in April, there were 59 sales total versus the month before, there were 79. So also a big drop in 20.
Right, and that's just month over month, right?
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, so a 25% drop just last month in Puna for single family homes. And then I guess I'll mention what the average sales price is and the median sales price, just because there are some big outliers in Puna. The lowest priced property on the market right now is $24,900.
And tell them what you found on that one.
Yeah, so I looked it up because I'm like, oh, what is that? Because people call all the time and they're like, wow, you could get a property for $25,000. And I'm like, well, it's in the middle of a lava field, and so there's no trees around, just black rocks, and the structure is a bus on that property. So that's
but get this, the bus came with it for $25,000, but does the land come with the bus?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can buy the land, which is how big is the land?
It's just over 9,000 square feet.
Okay, there you go. So you can live on a lava field with nothing around you in an old bus, because I saw the picture of that bus too.
Yeah. For $25,000, and then on the high end, it's like 3.4 million. Where did it go? Just in Puna. 3.5 million, and that one is a very large parcel with multiple structures on it. So so the average is 418 versus the median is 395, and that's kind of been where Puna's been at over the last few months, in that range.
Right. And that includes Lava Zone 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
And so as you guys know, the 1 and 2s are a lot less expensive than the 3s, right?
Yeah, because they're really hard to get insurance and really hard to get financing, especially in Lava Zone 1.
Yeah, so if you need a mortgage, that might not be where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
You can get your $24,000 bus instead.
Yeah, so that would have to be cash. You would need to pay cash for that. The other thing about the Lava Zone 1 and 2 financing is that I found out recently, I don't think it was this way before, but I think they're getting more strict.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a lanai. I think I mentioned this a few months back, but there was a lanai that was unpermitted on a house that I was selling in Lava Zone 2,
Mm-hmm.
and they almost didn't give them insurance for it, so they almost couldn't get financing. And so we did a workaround where we're working with a drafts person now, and they're going to correct it. But yeah, you have to be really careful about unpermitted structures in Lava Zone 1 and 2, which in Lava Zone 1 and 2, there are a lot of unpermitted structures. So
You get what you pay for, right? Yeah. So if it looks a little too good to be true, there's usually something going with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a chance you're gonna end up having to pay cash for those properties. And you always want to know how much on sale.
Yes, here it is. What's on sale?
So still not too much room for negotiation. The sales to current list price is 97.35%.
Wow. That's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So
Wow.
people are pretty much getting what they're asking for.
Maybe that's because the sellers have realized what the asking should look like versus what it was 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And so right now in Puna, there's 385 active listings. The average list price in Puna is 501, and median is 430. And do you have any questions?
Yes,
I
okay.
elaborate
Yeah.
on that
So
a
on
little
the
bit?
now, you're gonna do HPP. So that's basically just covers the entire Puna area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it seems as if you still have your $300,000 in Lava Zone 2 kind of properties, but then it's also mixed in with these upper prices next to the water too, right? Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to give you both the median and average. So
yeah, there's all kinds of different kinds of houses out there. Okay, so then let's go specific then.
Okay, so we'll move to HPP. HPP is a humongous neighborhood, and I believe it's the fastest growing neighborhood in all of Hawaii. There are 107 active listings out of the 385 in Puna total, so 1/3 or about
Just right
1/3.
there,
Yeah. And those price ranges are 149 to 2.38, and
Again.
yeah, and that's just within that neighborhood. So that 2.38, I mentioned it last month, but I got it mixed up, and so I want to correct myself.
Okay.
That property is like a resort it has a pool and some water slides and like a bridge that goes over the pool.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could buy a resort for $2.3 million.
Yeah, pretty much in HPP. Yeah.
And is that on 1 acre of land?
It's a little bit over an acre, that property. If I'm remembering correctly, yep.
Okay.
So that most of HPP's lots are an acre. When you get closer to the ocean, they're usually half an acre. But that one, there are some areas where they're slightly over an acre. So, so the average list price in HPP right now is $618, and the median is $565, with median days on market 68.
Okay.
And so the inventory is holding pretty
steady.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last month there was 109 listings. So
yeah, but the prices, we've been like watching the prices on this now for a few months, and 565. That's kind of high.
Yeah, so it's interesting because HPP is now, the median for HPP is about the same as Hilo.
Yeah.
But the difference is in Hilo, even though you have all your amenities and things nearby, and most of the time you're getting a smaller lot, you're also getting a really older... a
lot older house.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. In fact, I have a client that... they've got about $550 to spend, and what you can get in Hilo for $550 is completely different than what you can get for $550 in Ainaloa or in HPP. Brand new build, right? Land, and also the ability to basically do whatever you want in HPP, because you can like put other structures on there or like do ag and stuff. Where if you're in the middle of a neighborhood in Hilo, you're not getting that kind of freedom.
Yeah.
But you're close to everything else, though.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I have a client that was looking at a house that was $550, and they ended up taking it off the market because there are some problems with the setback. But the reason that the county found out about the problems with the setback is that somebody complained because they had a chicken. They had a chicken and it was making noise, and so the neighbors got upset, which I feel like there's some other problem there because there's so many chickens everywhere that I don't know why you would complain about that specific chicken, but it is funny when you go into like the permits and everything, you can see the complaint about the chicken.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because they have this issue up in Palisades where Palisades is zoned ag, but like right next to that like isn't or something. So you can't be raising your chickens on the like if like there's subdivisions here. There you can't have a chicken coop in the backyard. And so
Yeah.
but East Hawaii is a little bit more a little free on the old chicken department, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, on ag land, you can't tell somebody they can't have chickens.
Yeah, yeah.
Even, I hope I don't go down too far of a rabbit hole here, but even if you're creating a new subdivision on ag land, you can't tell people in your CCNRs that if you create CCNRs, you can't tell people you can't have farm animals because it's zoned ag.
Ah, there we go. So you can have a rooster farm too if you wanted to.
Yeah, so I gotta check into that
Because that's commercial, right? Versus like, and I'm just wondering if is it the difference between if you're farming on your ag land for yourself, or if you're selling whatever you're doing to someone else. Because with the rooster business, you're not eating those roosters. You're using it as a business, right?
Oh, in my head, I was picturing fighting chickens.
Well, fighting. Well, roosters. Aren't they all fighting roosters? Is that roosters that fight, or is it chickens too?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're unaware,
Technicalities.
if you're unaware, East Hawaii has a fighting rooster experience, and there's farms that a bunch of roosters will live off of in somebody's house in the middle of a subdivision, and they make some noise.
So that's the pros and cons of HPP, right? Well, you kind of mentioned it, is that you can kind of do whatever you want, but then you need to be careful where you're buying if things like goats and chicken noises upset you, because then you'll really want to look around at your neighbors and see what they got going on.
Right. So that's another thing too, that if you're going to buy an HPP, come and listen, right? Yeah, because we were at a house not that long ago where on the other side of the yard that there was roosters crowing.
Yeah, or you have to have a realtor that's very trustworthy, so they tell you. And like when I do videos for people that are off island, I make sure that I stand there and I let them listen to the outside, and I show them what their neighbors are looking like. I go out on the street, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you really need to be careful about that if you're trying to buy something sight unseen.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so we went down a rabbit hole. Sorry about that.
That was the ADD squirrel. Okay.
I'm good at the ADD.
It's something because now you're making me listen. The birds. Yeah. There's always noise on Hawaii Island, right? You're going to have something. It just matters how loud it gets.
Yeah, and what the source is.
Yeah. This is like random like tropical birds. Okay. Wait.
Okay, so let's see. We'll
Hilo.
move along to did we? Oh yeah, we did this. Okay. No, we didn't do the stats for sold properties in HPP. That was the active ones.
Okay.
So 16 homes sold this month in HPP versus last month was 26. So again, a big drop in the number of homes sold, but the price ranges are 100,000 to 1.2 million. And I don't know if anybody follows me on Instagram, but this was my sale, the 1.2 million.
Yay.
And I kept going under the house and this home because there were some things with the stucco. And anyway, I kept having to crawl under the house, and I was on Instagram under the house. So that was the house that I was under multiple times.
And it finally closed.
Yeah.
Yay.
Finally closed. Yeah. So median sales price in HPP right now is $539,500, and the average is $562. Median days on market is 38, and I would say that's pretty accurate. If you're under 700,000, anything above 700 and anything above 700, it's kind of sitting longer. And I would say for Hilo side, anything under 700 in general, even South Hilo area is kind of flying off the shelf.
Oh.
Versus if it's above 700,
in HPP.
Just in East Side in general, like things under 700 are going pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think that's because most local buyers can still afford, if they have a dual income household, they can still afford stuff, under
At 700? Under
yeah,
700.
right under like 650-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move along to South Hilo unless you have any other questions for me about
Okay.
HPP. Okay. So in Hilo, actually, there were more sales than last month. There were 22 this month, and versus last month were 20. So
A little bit, a little bit.
10% two sales. So those price ranges were $299 to $1.75, with the average sales price $688 and median $615. So last month it was a little bit lower, but when I had looked at what sold in March, there was a bunch of properties that sold in the 500s, so it kind of brought everything down. But the month before that was 630, so it's kind of been staying in that 600 range.
Yeah. You know, I was looking at the houses that you could get, like again for $550 for this couple that wants to come. They first said, can you find me a house for $300? I'm like, no, I can't. So $300,000 is just a really low price point to try and find a single family house, and it's not going to happen in Hilo for sure.
Even a condo is.
Yeah, but there's hardly any condos in Hilo too, and so they wanted a single family house. So I told them to get their price range up. But a $550,000 house in Hilo is still an older home with some issues. So at least $615 or the median price. That usually is what people will willing to pay for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house you can actually live in, right?
Yeah. So once you get a little bit above 600, then it's actually you're still getting an older home. I'm about to close on one that's from 1916 something, and that one is closing at 608. It's 3 bedrooms, but one of the bedrooms was converted into an office. It doesn't have a door, so it's kind of like a 2-bedroom. It needs new plumbing.
See, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's a deal to get new plumbing because now it was built in the 60s. That's 50-year-old plumbing.
Yeah, so it needs all new plumbing. There's some electrical stuff going on. The roof is good, so as I think.
So since you know the inventory pretty well, if you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Hilo where it's a turnkey, you're not messing around with trying to replace the house basically. What are you going to pay?
Probably 700 plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're wanting to and even at 700, it's not going to be brand new in Hilo.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of brand new houses in Hilo.
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah, but maybe something that people have renovated in the last 10 years now they're selling.
Yeah, it'll probably start. Those will probably start around 700-ish. Yeah.
Okay. Just so you know. Okay.
Yeah. So the average days on market in Hilo are 32. So the median days on market is 10, but I want to say that those are probably the ones that are closer to the 600 mark that
people are still looking for affordability and they're going off the market pretty quick. Okay.
Yeah, because again, I think that's kind of where the local buyers are able to afford that 600 range. So as soon as something hits the market, it's getting snapped up pretty quickly.
Okay.
So I would say the discrepancy between the average and the median has to do with the huge price range also.
Oh, there we go. Because the more expensive ones sell on the market longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then original sale to original price?
So people are not negotiating very much in Hilo. Sales to the original price is 99.16%, so almost full price.
Yeah.
And right now, so in Hilo, South Hilo goes from Waikea, which is kind of by the zoo. Do you know where the zoo is?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm giving a good landmark.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, if you know where Panaiva Zoo is.
Panaiva Zoo, yeah.
Panaiva, okay.
Yeah.
And then all the way to
Hakalau, which is kind of by Akaka Falls, which is a very popular.
That's way up there. Okay,
landmark.
so that's a big chunk of land.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the reason I'm saying that is because there's only 94 listings in that whole entire area. It includes Keaukaha, where all the beaches are and everything, versus HPP, which is it's just a neighborhood, and it has 107 homes for sale in HPP. Yeah. It's interesting that there's not a lot of inventory in Hilo either.
And again, you guys, in fact, here I go again. This person that wants to look for a 550 home, she is not retiring yet, so she needs to have a house. She needs a job, right? And so I wanted to put her closer to Hilo because she'd be closer to a job center, and that's why I think people also who are living and working and affording their mortgage have to be in a place where they can actually find a job. Where HPP, you're commuting to a job center, right?
Yeah, and if you're having to commute during the rush hour times, like early in the morning, 8, 7 to probably 6:30, actually to like 9-ish, you're gonna get stuck in quite a
Traffic.
bit of traffic, and especially coming back home,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. But there's a payoff. I mean, a trade-off, because you're getting an acre of land for the most part, and brand new homes for most of
Yeah,
the time
yeah.
in that 500 mid 500 range. So
Yeah.
I live in Hilo, and my kitchen is so tiny, and I I but I can drive to everywhere in like 3 or 4 minutes, so that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. But every time I go to HPP and I see the new homes, and there's these gorgeous kitchens and they're brand new with like nice countertops and nice appliances, I'm like, huh. But then I don't know. You really have to think hard. Do you want to?
Yeah, it's a trade-off. It's,
Yeah.
really, it's gotten to this point where affordability is such that, because this happened in the Bay Area when I was growing up, that the homes in the Bay Area got so expensive, people were pushed out into the valley, which was back then it was like Tracy, and then people were commuting an hour and a half to get to their jobs back in the Bay Area. But they had brand new houses out there for half the price, and so that was great for raising kids. But they never saw their
Yeah.
kids. Whoever had to be the maid breadwinner was on the road all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off in terms of quality of life, right?
Yes, definitely. There are a lot of families in HPP because of
Affordability.
and just a nicer quality of life for your family in a larger house, a larger lot, and you can have animals, pets, and things. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a trade-off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we got.
So as a result, I don't really cook very often. But okay, so let's see. We talked about South Hilo and the active inventory. We're going over the active inventory. So the active right now is starting 299, but that's you're not. It's
base
not
level.
a move-in ready house at all. And then the high end is 23 million, but it's like hundreds of acres, and with a really it's a ranch. Let's say that. But this is something that kind of blows my mind because I grew up in Hilo, and just to see that the median list price right now is about 800,000, 797, 500.
Wow. Yeah.
That kind of blows my mind. And then when I even look at the average, but it's 1.4, that really blows my mind. But you got to remember that there's that 23 million
Dollar house, yeah.
property
The ranch,
that's
yeah. It kind of skews the numbers.
yeah.
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 But the thing is that tell them a little bit about other people coming over from other islands looking for affordability, right?
Oh, yeah. So from other islands, I think Honolulu's median price right now is 1.1 almost, the median single family home. And so and a lot of times people are buying teardowns at $1 million in Honolulu, and very small lots. I had somebody coming over and looking at a property the other day that's 1.7 million. It's 25 acres. There's a waterfall right next to it. It's got 180 views of the ocean.
Ooh.
And then Mauna Kea behind. And so they're coming from Oahu, and they live on like a 10,000 square foot lot. And he's like, this is beautiful. I have to wrap my head around it because I'm so used to having this tiny lot. So they're trying to figure out how am I going to take care of this?
Oh, yeah. That's another thing.
Yeah.
And some people actually, I've heard this too, that they'll keep their job in Honolulu and just fly in. Like 3 days a week, they'll fly to their job in Honolulu, and they'll be able to live a lot less expensive on our island. So
I actually met a guy on the plane like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's what, but again, we were talking about the Maui experience too, is that there's a lot of politics going on in Maui right now. And they really don't want short-term vacation rentals there right now as they're trying to house the people who went in the fire. And so a lot of people are saying, you know what, maybe now is not the time to, continue the life the way I led it in Maui, and I can get more for my buck when I come over to Big Island and have a little less people having to worry about what's going on with the rebuild and how to do all the stuff that's happening in Lahaina.
Yeah. And I haven't been over there since that happened, but one of my friends just moved from there to Kauai, and we were talking about how Kauai just feels, and Hawaii Island, they just feel so much, much more calm. And I think a lot of it has to do with all of the politics that are happening with all of that.
Yeah.
But,
So if you're in the other islands, yes, you can still find a deal on our island. Probably a little less than $850,000 in Hilo, but you never know.
yeah, it's kind of like we're on sale, which I don't
Yeah, compared to other islands, we are. And,
Yeah.
and that's why, like the Puna, I think the Puna specifically district is the fastest growing, um, like population-wise, in the entire state, and it's one of the most, I think, quick growing. Like I think they said something like in a lot of different metropolitan areas in the country. But then there's a bunch of people over in that kind of the island too. They're also saying it's too many people all at the same time. So
moving here, you mean?
mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of have to agree when you get stuck in that Puna traffic.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, kitchen or traffic. Yeah. So,
But if that's something, you just need to know that that's what's
yeah.
kind of happening. After a lot of people who are trying to get, a place that they can afford and still live in Hawaii.
So a lot of people that work from home, HPP is awesome for that person because you can choose when you go into town.
Right, yeah.
And they are building a lot of amenities around it, like in Pahoa and stuff. So it's not so far of a drive to get to a lot of really good restaurants and shopping and
grocery
stuff like
stores.
that. Yeah. So
so what are the takeaways?
the takeaways, well, the transaction count went down, of course, about 16, almost 17% year over year for the island. Residential sales also slowed mostly in Puna. That's all the biggest drop of 25% from last month. But the prices are continuing to go up. So we were talking earlier, trying to figure out why that might be, especially because interest rates are still, they said today that they're or
not
was
gonna,
it yesterday?
Yeah, they're not going to be changed.
Yeah, that they're going to wait and see what happens. And so I'm still trying to work that out in my head why the prices are still going up, because economically that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Besides that, there are a lot of people coming from off island, other islands purchasing here because it's more affordable. You get more land, and then also people from the mainland are coming.
Yeah. Well, and also if you're saying your neighbor just sold their house for 100% of their asking,
Yeah,
this is how this stuff goes, right?
Yeah.
Then you say, well, maybe I'll raise my price up a little bit. If he got 100% and he sold his house in 10 days, that means it's a strong market, and maybe I can get a little bit more for my house.
Well, and then too, the prices for island-wide the median is going up, and other areas like Kona, the median is like what,
1.5.
Okay, so 1.5. So for the entire island, when you're comparing, I can get a house in Hilo for 600 versus Kona 1.5. I can see why the median at 605 is continuing to go up, because
you can afford more. You could get more for your buck over there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because people who would normally live in Kona, might not want to live in Hilo, even if affordability, just because there's just such separate cultures, and if you like the beach community with hot, you might not like what's going on over there unless it's truly just about the price.
Yeah.
So, but but having people just keep coming into the Big Island, right, just to find housing. It just shows that there's there's just more demand, right? Even in an uncertain market that we're in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we got that worked out. Thanks for talking it out with me.
Well, and also people might be going like this. Maybe because all those $500,000 houses just got bought out, there's no $500,000 houses left. So what the next tier up is $600,000, $700,000 houses.
Well, okay, so sorry, I don't want to go too far down another rabbit hole, but that's another thing that's I'm curious what's going to happen with the housing, because material costs are going to go up with all the tariffs. So now the contractors are either not going to build new homes because they're not going to be able to sell them, which is going to push the existing inventory prices up, or they're going to have to pass that
price on.
Yeah, to the consumer. So,
that's another reason why you should buy a house right now before that actually hits, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I do have a contractor friend. He was trying to get rid of one of his properties real fast so he could hurry up and finish the next one before the prices on the materials went up. So, that's probably another factor.
Yeah. Well, We're living in uncertain times right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else you got?
So South Hilo is still remaining strong. The prices, especially the ones under 700,000, are the days on market are, you know, relatively short. So that's good. And I think that's about it. I mean,
Buyers are buying and sellers are selling, as they say.
it's still happening.
Yes.
There's still activity going on, especially for those that are just, you know, they're like, I just need to buy a house. So there's really not you can't really ever time the market. So for those who are just in need of a house, it's the time.
It's the time to buy a house.
I think the time to buy a house is when you need to buy a house, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right, and it's still a very good, it's a way to, like, you know, build equity. And it also it seems a lot safer than the stock market right now. At least you can live in it, and no one can take it out of your hands. Like, you know, a dip in the market can, like, wipe out thousands of dollars out of your, you know, your investment portfolio. But also, we were also going to, just because I want to talk to you also about the sellers, about when sellers are pricing their houses, and that sometimes they'll choose a price that they have to think that they have to get, right? Because right now, I don't know if it's happening on your side, but on our side, a bunch of people buy houses here in 2022. Now they want to go. Well, the market has softened since 2022. And what I hear is, but I need that for my house.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people will say, I need X amount of money so I can move to this other market. And so it doesn't really work that way.
And I always go, it's like I'm walking into your boss's office and say, I need a raise because I need to have, like, you know, I'm trying to buy something. And I'll say, well, that doesn't really work that way. You need to actually do the work. Well, just because you need the money, the housing market is not going to go with what you think you need, right? Right.
Yeah.
So the prices have come down since 2022. Right?
Over here?
Yeah, for here, for sure. How about you guys? No?
No, they're going up still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, even from the 20, so you didn't do this. It just kept going like this. You didn't have we have a little softer market than 2022 here.
I would say softer in terms of time on market.
Yeah,
but not really
prices.
Price. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So, okay, so sellers can probably get more. Okay, there we go. It shows because they're getting 100%. We're getting 92.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, geez, that's still good. But yeah, it's wait, what?
So with for pricing a house. So
Okay,
when you want to
I
price
was
a
like,
house.
what were we talking about?
Yeah.
again?
So when because we have a mutual friend that was trying to sell his house and he wants a certain amount of money, and so we're thinking, do you as an agent say, okay, if that's what you want to get for your house, you just take the listing and then you let it sit, or do you get clear with your seller about what's really going on in the market?
Okay, so there's different scenarios there. Normally, no, we do not want to take a listing if a seller wants to list it for higher than we suggest. If it's a little bit higher, okay, sure, we'll try it out.
They call that aspirational pricing.
Yeah, but sometimes there's quite a gap between what we think and what they're hoping to get, and in that case, because we put so much money into our listings right off the bat, there's thousands of dollars that we're spending, and so I guess the other theory for some agents is that, yeah, you're putting it into, you know, the money into the listing, but it's also marketing, so they're wanting to get listings to market themselves, where I think I would prefer, because the other thing that happens is when it sits on the market, even though the seller is like, let's just try it, and it was the seller's idea. A lot of times they'll forget that was their idea. And then
how come my house isn't selling? Right?
Then they're mad at you, and you have to keep having this conversation with them about, you know, why. And it just gets to be a really icky kind of relationship, or conversations get kind of icky. So I don't really like that strategy. You know, there's other ways to market yourself than taking an overpriced listing and
let it sit there for 100 days and then fighting with the seller. Right? Yeah. And also, we were just talking to one of my friends came by the house. He this happens all the time to realtors too. The first realtor, your house is overpriced. okay, I'm not going to be able to keep this listing forever. Okay, now you're fired, first realtor, and then the second realtor comes in, and the first thing it does is the realtor, the seller drops the price $30,000, and then it sells really quickly. And then the first realtor says, if you had just dropped the price like I told you to, I could have kept the listing. But then the second realtor sometimes will talk sense into them because they've already softened up these people. So they say sometimes your best bet is to be the second or third realtor.
Yeah. But the other thing is it does cost the seller money too, because the longer it sits on, you're thinking, because another thing that I hear all the time is like, well, if we price it here, then people are going to automatically going to want to negotiate with us. So we need to price it here so we can get this. But the thing is, if it's priced way too high, people aren't even going to look at it because they're going to say, they're going to assume that that's what you want. They're not going to assume, oh, we can negotiate $100,000 off of this price, or even 25 or 50 off of this price. They're gonna think that, you know,
you could do that in Kona right now, though.
So it's better to just start closer to, you know, where you actually want, and then you'll probably get more showings and more offers. And when you're priced correctly, a lot of times we're seeing multiple offers even in this market. So
because buyers are buying.
Yeah.
But also some people, they call it the holding costs. If you're still paying a mortgage, if you're still paying your insurance, if you're still paying all the costs it holds to house, letting it sit there for another 100 days, you're actually losing the money that you thought you were saving, right? Especially if you want to get the heck out, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's another point that I wanted to make about all that too. But
sellers, okay, so overpriced listings, making sure that you price it correctly.
I know. So also when you start at a really high price, what happens is once a lot of the sellers start to say, oh, okay, maybe, you know, maybe the price that we talked about originally, maybe I should go with that price that you suggested. But by that time, it's been sitting on the market so long that now it's kind of stale. And then even if you drop it, people start wondering, well, what's wrong with this house? And then they'll try to negotiate off of that price even harder. So it's not really a strategy that I think is
price it right to begin with. And get it off the market, right? Yeah, because and all these buyers out there, they know what's going on. They go, oh, the house is on the market for 100 days. I'm going to go in there and lowball that price.
Because a lot of buyers will sit there and watch houses drop until it reaches the range that they're comfortable with, and then bam, they'll call you. And so that's another thing that happens.
Yeah. So there you go. So if you're thinking about selling, that's the story. So I want to know, is there anything else going on in East Hawaii that people need to know about, just to give an idea of what people do in April and May and early June in that area?
Well, last month was Merry Monarch, and which you told me about. I was like, what's in April? Oh yeah, Merry Monarch. So that was a lot of fun. There's a lot of different activities that happen during Merry Monarch week, and people from all over the world that come in. As far as what month are we in? May.
Yeah, mid-May.
I'm like, wait, March, May? Yeah. May's after April. May, you know, kids are getting out of school, and so a lot of beach activities are happening. Yeah. And something that's really interesting if you're not from here is you'll see a lot of banners on people's fences with kids.
For kids. Yeah. You tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, well,
these kids aren't missing.
yeah. There's just banners everywhere congratulating the kids, and so I think that's really cute. It's not something that happens in the mainland, and you know, it makes you as a kid, and you see your big old banner up there.
My daughter, when she graduated from here, I didn't realize that was a thing, and I got her a 6-foot banner with her picture and like nice things I said about her, and you're right. Who does that on the mainland? Get a 6-foot banner, and we put it out on the street so everyone driving by would know what she looked like and the fact she lived in that house. And people were like, "Oh, that's kind of crazy." But my son, he's like, because he's more shy. He's like, "Don't put my face out there in front of my house."
Yeah, I think I would be in that camp. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I wonder. There's a lot of kids' faces all over. I don't know if I would. Even though my face is all over the place now.
Yeah, because you're marketing. Yeah.
But yeah, that would make me feel a little weird. But yeah, that's something kind of neat that doesn't happen in the mainland.
Yeah,
It's just kind of fun to see.
Yeah, and people start stockpiling Lays.
Yes, Lays everywhere.
Yeah. Because we had May Day too, so Lays are May Day. And if you guys are coming onto the island, I kind of have been here a long time, but this is kind of an interesting one too. Get a bunch of Lays. And then when you're out in the world on May 1st, or when Lay Day is, give the lays just to people. Like give them to your friends and people you know, and just be nice. It's like it's kind of like a really like a aloha day. Where when I was at the caravan meeting last week, one of the Hawaiian realtors came with our armful of lays, and she was just giving to people just to like spread joy.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It is really cool. That is one thing I really love about Hawaii in general, is just that, everybody loves to see other people joyful. And so when you go to other people's houses and things, more often than not, you're going to leave there with some kind of fruit or something. And so I was in my car the other day and I looked over and I had like a few fruits because I had visited a few people that day, and I was just, my heart was like feeling so full, just because I'm like, where in the world does this happen? You don't go to houses and leave with an avocado every time. Like, yeah. So
it's, what it is. It's really, it's a gift of aloha, really, because you have enough, because you have fruit trees and you have enough to give. And it usually comes back in some other form, like another banana or something. Yeah. But that's what's nice about this island, when people actually practice aloha, because you got to give as well as receive. And so if everyone just keeps that kind of like aloha economy going, I think that's what's a special place about living here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I'm glad I got a chance to say
that. It is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so next month, we will be back again in June, and also Nui's also going to be giving kind of like a smaller East-wide update for the island-wide update in the end of the month, around the 22nd of May, I think. Are you doing that one? Yeah.
Yes, I'll be there, and then in June, me and Lance will be in DC. So we'll be doing our update from DC.
Yeah, so you guys get to, and if there's any national information that you guys want to like chat about, affects homeowners on our island. So thank you again for being here. And she came all to our house here in Kona to make sure we could be on our, together.
Well,
in person.
because the view is not bad from here.
Yeah, and she also hits up Costco.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Okay, so we'll see you guys next time. And if you guys want to be on the live, go to 365hawaiire.com. We're going to be using that website so you guys can search for available homes on the market and also market stats as well. So go check out that website too. Aloha.
Aloha.